Everybody act tough when they up.
It's the Boris Dirk podcast. Welcome back, everyone. We are thrilled to be joined today by second-time guest of the pod. Frequent NBA Twitter users will know him from the highlight tapes that he tweets out, and a lot of his general NBA takes, NBA generalist, as he calls himself. Brett Usher joining the pod. Very thrilled to have you on a second time. Great to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Great to see you guys too, for sure. Definitely excited to talk some hoops. It sounds like we got a fun topic for today, and yeah, it's been a great season. So I'm always down to talk about it.
Absolutely. Drew Semler, as always, joining me.
Yes, fellow basketball fan.
And the topic for today's episode, we're like a quarter of the way through the season, a little bit more, about 25 games. And at this point, it's kind of like, are we buying some of these teams that have gotten off to hot starts? We feel like some of the teams that had maybe higher preseason expectations that haven't quite gotten off to the starts that we've expected. Maybe are they going to pick it up? Is it over for them? So we're going to go through just a couple teams each that we're either buying or selling and explain why. So, Drew, you want to start us off with one of your buys?
I'm buying the dip with the LA Clippers because I just believe it can't be 6-18 bad. I mean, that's what it is right now. But I'm buying the Clippers. I am not concussed. Dunks and Threes, a website you and I both really love, has like their player-driven team rating. They still think the Clippers end the season as a slightly above average team with a positive projected net rating. If there's a silver lining to the Bradley Beal injury, it's that they can play some more athletic, defensively oriented lineups. Kawhi, when he's on the court, has been really good. I don't think that Ty Lue is suddenly not, one of the better coaches in the league. With Chris Paul out, whatever toxicity had been brewing there, with Kawhi not planting trees, that conversation slowly dying out, that this team can find some equilibrium and fall back on, the 7 or 8 guys who had a lot of us projecting them to finish like middle of the, Western Conference top 8.
Yeah, Brett, what have you seen watching the Clippers this year? Like, do you feel like they're as bad as their record, or is there room for improvement there?
Yeah, there's room for improvement, and there's also time for improvement. I mean, it's still 6-18 is crazy though. Like,
it's crazy.
I was looking at that today. Like, I think maybe I heard somebody mention it on a podcast, and I was like, "There's no way." And I just double checked. I'm like, 6-18, like that's abysmal. So yeah, I mean, just a pretty horrendous start. But again, there's we're not even a third of the way through the season. So like. And if you look at the standings, like they've got opportunity and time to get back into it. And I agree, like Kawhi has looked great. I mean, Harden overall in the season has been really like I don't really know why they're as bad as they are.
Yeah.
I haven't dove into it that much, but I mean, I certainly agree that they're not 6-18 bad. I would not be surprised if they made a push and got into at least playoff contention. Beyond that, I'm not sure, but it's just a crazy fall off from last season. Like I was maybe a little too optimistic about the John Collins thing. Like I thought him just being this vertical threat for Harden was going to be so valuable for them. I do think they're missing Derrick Jones Jr. a lot.
Yeah.
The Beal thing, it was kind of like, I'm not like super high on him anymore or anything, but it still felt like he was going to be a contributor for them and maybe like something that they could even use. And he's done now. So very rough start on many fronts and just going into the season, obviously, things just weren't great with the stories that were out and everything. So I hope they can turn it around. I mean, the All-Star game is there this year. I'm a huge Kawhi fan. So I'm certainly rooting for them. I mean, Zubats, Zubats is great. I don't know if he's been quite what he was last season. Maybe he'll pick it up a little bit. But so, I mean, I can see him turning it around to the extent that they're, a playoff team. I think they could still get into the top 8 if things really break right for them. And I don't know. I mean, there's certainly a team like when we look at potential trades that could be looking to do something to upgrade the roster. They're obviously not afraid to spend the money and not afraid to take swings. Obviously, there's a lot of guys out there that have been talked about that could be moved, and I feel like they would be a destination. They're a desirable place, obviously, and I think they're looking at probably how can we improve this roster.
Yeah, and in terms of like what's changed from last year to this year, and I tweeted about this last week. These numbers have probably changed a little bit since then, but I mean, the defense is obviously the biggest difference from last year to this year. So last year they were top 3 defense. A lot of that was driven by Zoo being an awesome rim protector, some of the perimeter defensive talent they had with Dunn and Derek Jones. Both of those guys playing a little bit less this year and being replaced by kind of older guys who may be more skilled but don't have quite the same level of aggression on a play-to-play basis and the kind of athleticism. So rebounds, last year they were number 1 in defensive rebound percentage. This year, number 25. So big fall off there in terms of the amount of opponent misses that they're getting. And then their own turnovers, they've gone down from middle of the pack to bottom 5 in terms of the points that they're allowing off of their own turnovers. So transition defense has been really bad, and they're turning the ball over a lot compared to last year. And then they're not forcing nearly as many turnovers on the other team as they were last year. 3rd in steals last season, 18th this year. So all that kind of adds up to how they go from 3rd in defense last year to 26th this year with not that much of a personnel change. They swapped Norman Powell for Collins and Beal. Beal hasn't played that much, so it's basically Powell for Collins. And Powell's not an all-world defender. He's more of an offensive guy anyways. But it's really, I think, it's the roster getting older because a lot of this is effort stats like rebounds, getting back in transition, and forcing turnovers on the other team. That's effort, that's athleticism, it's speed. And they are kind of an old team. So I think that stuff, it shouldn't be, I think, quite this bad. And it is, again, still encouraging, as Drew said, that when Kawhi's been on the court, he's been great. And Harden, honestly, if you just look at his numbers, has like a real all-star case this year. Like, I know he's probably not going to get in because it tends to just be like the best 1 to 2 players on the teams as you go down the standings, and that's your all-star team. And Harden's all the way at the bottom right now, or towards the bottom, so he probably won't get in. But he's having a very good offensive season, and yeah, I was high on them before the year. I thought they would be like a 50-plus win team. They've been a 50-plus win team each of the past few seasons or around that range. And the one thing they do have going for them is the West has not been nearly as competitive from a wins perspective as we expected before the year. We thought there might be 10 to 11 teams that could really push for the play-in and be above 500 teams, 45-win teams. And there's really only 8 teams in the West that are plus 500. It's basically down to the Warriors at number 8, and then everyone else is at least a few games below 500. So I think they've still got a shot to get themselves into the play-in. I don't know if I would necessarily pick them to do that, but I get buying them. But they're going to need some sort of infusion of like youth and athleticism, whether it's from playing young guys more or from trading for someone at the deadline or before the deadline, because all these stats just point to like old guys basically not wanting to do the dirty work on the court.
And this was like our conversation about the Clippers before the season. It was obvious all these dudes are old and past their prime, but it's just like there's so many of them that surely, you know, they can take on a little bit less usage. No one thinks, you know, Brook Lopez is an elite rim protector, floor spacer like he was a few years ago in Milwaukee now, but as a backup to Zoo, like it just all sort of made sense because of the depth side of things. And here we are. It's a young man's league, like the violence and pace with which guys are changing ends and the turnover battle and the trenches. And this team feels old and soft. And to your point, Max, this is the most efficient at this volume Harden's been since he was a Rocket. Like he goes to Brooklyn, he goes to Philly. He hasn't averaged this many points since 2021. And it's if you said you're going to get year 16 Harden 27, 5 and 8 on 44, 37, 90, and Kawhi looks really, really, really good. You know, this is not the 24 game start that anyone had in mind. And I know from following Brett, Brett is one of the bigger Norm Powell fans you're going to find anywhere. Brett, did you even think that swapping out Norm Powell for the ghost of Bradley Beal and John Collins would be this crazy a drop off?
No, I didn't. I didn't think so. I mean, I would have said I figured they'll miss Powell, but
Yeah.
I wasn't so much excited about Beal. Like I thought he would just kind of be like, I don't know, like a Bogdanovich for them a little bit, just just a scorer, not somebody they rely on too heavily, but a guy that could get hot and give you like 25 or 30. But I was high on Collins. Like I thought he had become really underrated, had a couple of really nice years in Utah, and even before that with Atlanta. Like he's just a solid player. Like he can shoot it a little bit. He's super athletic. He's big. He's a nice player, and I thought the fit was going to be really good. And maybe they can turn that around a little bit. Sometimes we saw like with Desmond Bane this season, like sometimes with these new guys, it takes a little while to acclimate. And, playing with somebody like James Harden, like with his system, like it, maybe that takes some time. Maybe Collins will get better for them. You mentioned Brook Lopez, and well aware he's not going to be what he was a few years ago, but I thought he was going to be a high end backup center for sure, and offer, more rim protection than he has been. But he's looked pretty washed so far.
Sad to say.
Yeah.
It might just be as simple as we've gotten 13 games of Derek Jones Jr. Hopefully he'll be back in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And only 10 games of Bogdanovich. And what do you need around James Harden on offense? You need defense to back up for him because Harden has been as rough as ever on the defensive end. You need athletes like Derek Jones Jr. flying around, and you need outlets, on offense like Bogdanovich, movement shooters, guys who can play off of Harden and Kawhi's gravity. So, those two guys are out for a lot of games early on, and suddenly, you're underqualified, as Chris John to be creating offense out of nothing when you're giving your older guys a rest here and there.
Yeah. All right, Brett, give me one of your buys. Team you're high on.
All right, there. I didn't want to go like, I'm not going to say the Thunder, but maybe I'm going a little high on this one because they're I don't know if they're probably fifth in the West. The Spurs. I don't know if you can see my hat, but I got my Spurs hat on.
Oh yeah.
Definitely buying the Spurs. Like, okay, I think everybody's buying them as like a pretty good team for sure. Like that's not really a hot take. I think I'm a little bit higher on what they can be this season in terms of their ceiling than probably a lot of people. Like I think at full strength, this could be, the third or fourth best team in the West. Like I would probably have it. OKC is tier 1 by themselves, probably Denver tier 2, but then I think I would have the Spurs at full strength with Wemby and everybody right there with the Rockets right behind them. I think they're going to be scary when they get that guy back. They're 9-3 without him since he went down. They've had, I think, a top 5-6 offense since then. Even on the season, they're up there, certainly top 10, but it's gotten even better without Victor. Their defense has kind of fallen off a cliff since he went down, predictably. So, you take the offensive system that they've established, and then you plug in a guy that I think is a top 5 player in the NBA, and what he brings defensively, not to mention his offensive skill set, but just adding that defensive impact back, like where they were. Certainly, they were the number 1 defense in the league for a while. I think overall they were probably top 5 with Victor. So you add him into the mix with what they've kind of established like these last 12 games. I think they're going to be scary. Like I think they're a team that could certainly win a playoff series and maybe 2. I don't know if I'd quite pick them to go to the finals, but they're going to make some noise. I think as long as he can stay healthy, they're an interesting team. Like. They've got some young guys. Like some of their important players are exceedingly young when you look at Victor and Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle, namely. But I mean, Oklahoma City last season still had some really young players, and we see what they're doing. They've got a good blend. They've got some great vets there too. They've got depth, veteran depth in like Cornette and Harrison Barnes and Keldon Johnson. And like, these guys are playing really good for them. So I think they've got a lot going for them. They're a better shooting team than I expected them to be. They're like middle of the pack in 3-point attempts, probably like top 10 or something in percentage. They shoot it pretty accurately from three. And the season that Harrison Barnes is having, and Keldon's been really efficient, maybe not from three, but just overall. Champagnie can really shoot it. So, that was the big question with like Fox, Harper, Castle. None of them are great shooters, but they do have a couple of wings that can really shoot it. Wemby can shoot it, obviously. So that's not as much of a concern as I thought it would be. But yeah, for them to be this good without Victor, you take a team that's won 9 of their last 12, and then you add a top 5 player to it. And like Victor's in year 3. This is not year 1 Victor. This is not year 2. Like he's ready. He's ready to go. He's ready to win. And so is De'Aaron Fox. He's probably in year 9 now. And I mean, a lot of these guys are. And the leap that he's taken this season has blown me away. I mean, I was very high on him as a rookie. I didn't expect him to be quite this good in his second year, as high on him as I was. And Harper is obviously NBA ready and already super impactful with his rim pressuring ability. So you just have this constant rim pressure from Fox, Castle, Harper. You've got some shooters. You've got vets. You've got Victor. I really like Mitch Johnson as a coach. There's just a lot to love about this team. And I think anytime this conversation comes up of like, are they a contender? Are they a top 4 team in the West? Whatever. It's kind of like, maybe next year. Like people tend to want to like slow this down or like, let's hold up. Like we're still young. We're just getting started. But I think they're ready to compete, not beat OKC, but anything short of that really wouldn't surprise me as long as that 7-5 guy is there.
Yeah. I think I'll go quick. And then Drew, I know you love a lot of guys in this team, so I'll let you go too. But Fox has been awesome since Wemby went out, and his shooting has been huge. He's at 39% from 3 on the season, which is a good deal above his career average and is huge for this team to be as good as they want to be, for him to be a good shooter, because then you start having a lot of guys that defenses need to respect from 3. Between him, Champagnie, Barnes, and Wemby, that's like 4 like core rotation guys that teams really need to respect from 3. And then Castle, Harper, like taking advantage of the space that creates, and Fox himself as well. So yeah, they're top 6 in offense on the season, which I don't expect that to go down too much when Vic comes back, if at all. I mean, it might go down a little bit because his efficiency still isn't amazing, but I think they'll still be a top 10 offensive team. And then their defense is a little below average right now, and I would expect that to creep back up into the top 10 with Vic on the court. So
did you just say you think the Spurs might get worse on offense with Vic?
I don't. What I'm saying is his usage with being, not the most efficient guy still.
Yeah.
I could see it dipping down from 6, and maybe more what I mean is they won't be this hot shooting.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
they've been playing so well. Like so much above expected, I think, since he went down, that like if it does take a dip, it might not be because of him. It might just be that like they cooled off a little bit, because they've really been really shooting it, really playing great. But like, yeah, I mean, he's a walking top 5 defense, if not higher. So like whatever their record is when he comes back, they instantly become a top 5 defense. And so, like you said, as long as that offense can stay in the top 10 and you can have a top 5-6 defense with Victor, I think at the very least, I mean, that's pretty good. There's probably not a lot of teams in that conversation.
Yeah.
Because the Spurs have a bona fide, unique unicorn at the center of it all, who we know will be one of the best players of all time if he can just stay healthy. Steph Castle has turned into one of the like most under-discussed young players like I can remember being this good this early. Dude's averaging 7 free throw attempts a game with no one respecting his shot from behind the arc. I'd always rather have a young player, working out to 3 levels from the inside, as opposed to like a guy like Grady Dick, like who can shoot but is trying to figure out everything inside the arc. Steph Castle shooting like 63% on 2s or something like that. Probably changed in the last couple of days. He's incredible. I mean, the raw stats, 18, 6, and 7 on 50% shooting when he's making like 1 out of every 4 threes. And the defense, his calling card at UConn has translated to the league right away. If he can just figure out the turnovers a little bit, because he's still messy and he's being asked to do a lot with Vic out. But you guys didn't even mention, Vic was out. Castle was also out a couple weeks. Yep. He missed the second half of November, first week of December. It was like 3 weeks out. And then he comes back in his second game back and says, honey, I'm home against the Lakers. 30, 10, and 6.
Yeah, so good.
Buries a late 3, not even, that's not even his game. And he still had the courage to make that shot. The biggest question mark in his game. And, he made Luka's life hard on a couple of possessions, as much as you could hope to do with Luka. So, and we haven't even really talked much about Dylan Harper. My point is just, I agree with you, Brett. A lot of these young guys, especially in the modern game, because I think they get so much exposure and great training early. There's a lot of stuff wrong with the AAU and things we say to young guys now, but there's also a lot right. And dudes like the Thunder's core, some people just enter the league at 19, 20, and they're grown men inside and out. And they're just like ready to take on this responsibility. And maybe we have to think a little bit differently about certain young guys. Now, if the Spurs end up in a playoff series this year and Steph Castle, goes 0 for 14 from 3, we'll forgive him for it. But it's also possible that he's one of these special, like J-Dub young men who's just built for it earlier than we're used to. And I'm open to that. And I'm excited for the Spurs. I just really hope Wemby obviously can be healthy for the playoffs, because this will be a darling pick against a higher seed in the playoffs. Like if
it's like this versus the Lakers in the first round or something.
Or even the Rockets. Like there are a few teams that are not, OKC, probably not Denver, just out of respect for that team's tradition, who a lot of us will be super excited to take the Spurs over if Wemby's healthy. And that's what we got to pray for, because it's just a weird situation where Wemby's a lock to be one of the best ever if his body can just hold up. And I can't remember the last time I was that certain about a guy his age.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it was a very minor calf strain, like this last thing. So it's like, he hasn't had he had a major medical issue last season, obviously. But in terms of like, I don't even want to say the names of the injuries because I don't even want to put that out in the universe. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I think if he had been playing in the 90s, he probably would have just played through this calf strain. I think the teams in general are just being so cautious with all these injuries. Mm-hmm. And then with a guy like Wemby, of course, and just the fact that they've been this good without him is just like icing on the cake. Like, I think most people would have probably picked them to have been, no better than 500 over this stretch. And they've just exceeded expectations. And I think in doing so have accelerated things a little bit. Like, okay, we can really be something. And, yeah, man, and just Castle, man, and Harper, like, I can't say enough about those guys. Like, it's just so cool. Like, I haven't really seen something like this before, where you have this pair of a 19 and 21-year-old, I think, 6'6" slasher guards that, like, that's just what they do, but they do it in their own different styles. Whereas like Harper is just really smooth, really polished. And Castle is more of a bully, just using his physicality, his athleticism. He has a lot of craft too, with like his D-cells and his Euros. He's got some stuff, but it's just like two very different approaches, and you kind of get the same result out of both of them. And if you can have two of those two and Fox on the court at all times, like that rim pressure, what that's going to look like when you have Victor waiting there when they might collapse on one of those guys just to get an easy one. It makes a lot of sense to me. So yeah, I'm all in.
Yeah, already. And I've also just noticed, because those guys are always at the rim, like, you're dragging the other team's perimeter defenders like into the trees. It's harder for your opponent to get out in transition and punish you on the other side. It's different from teams that are just, launching from deep and you're getting long rebounds and grabbing and going. Like, yeah, the Spurs are taking you into the deep waters, even with Wemby out, in that way. And Harper just has that lefty, like, he'll just hang and use his body long enough to just create a little bit of space and finish over you. Yeah, exciting times in San Antonio.
Yeah, and real quick on sort of the Harper Castle, both of them when they're playing together, I'm using my new favorite website.
Slash Brothers. Wait, Brett, did you come up with Slash Brothers?
I did.
Yeah, that's
Let's
really
go.
good. That's really good.
I mean,
Yeah,
I hadn't heard it before for them, so I think I coined it. I'll take credit.
That's great. Yeah, because when in a league that a lot of teams are really kind of starving for like point guard play and guys who can initiate offense for other players on the team, having that trio of Fox, Castle, Harper is just like such an embarrassment of riches for them, of just having three guys who can get downhill like that and generate good looks for other players or for themselves. I'm using my new favorite website, Data Baller. I just love clicking the guys on and off and seeing what the net ratings
so
are.
So good. It's so
I'm so
user-friendly.
addicted to it. Fox, Castle, and Harper have not played a minute altogether yet this year. I'd kind of be curious to see what that looks like, because those are three of their five best guys. So I kind of would like to see what that lineup looks like. It might not be enough shooting, but and any combination of or the Castle Harper combination has been like plus 20 net. It's been awesome. So I'm really curious to see what this team looks like at full strength, and then just to get a good dose of the Fox Wemby two-man game, which it seems like we'll get it for like a game or two, and then one of them goes out with something. So I want to see a long, sustained stretch of what that looks like with Fox's speed and the way he shot the ball this year. I think that's going to be just super dangerous for teams. And there's some teams that just won't be able to handle the amount of length and athleticism and speed that they have, because it can be overwhelming. We saw that against the Lakers last night. They couldn't handle the amount of athleticism that the Spurs were throwing at them, and they didn't even have Wemby. All right. Or do you have a last thing?
Call me Debbie Downer. I'm still bummed that they committed so much long-term money to De'Aaron Fox, because there's just a little, he's way better and way different from Jalen Green. But sometimes I get a little bit of Jalen Green last year on the Rockets vibes, where there's so much young talent and athleticism and two-way commitment on the floor. And then you've got one guy who just wants to cross, kill a shot clock, and shoot a contested jumper. Like, Fox is amazing in his own ways and obviously brings a lot to the table. It's just a lot of money. And especially with how good Harper and Castle look so soon, it might have been cool to see them build a little bit more organically, but maybe I'll be proved wrong.
I think because Harper's a point guard. I don't know that Castle's one of those guys, like kind of like Anthony Black. Like there's certain guys in the league where I feel like
or
they're
like
just
those are my guys.
Basketball players. Yeah, me too. I love them. And I almost think they don't a positional label doesn't really fit them. They're just basketball players. And like, I think Castle's that. Like, you could kind of look at him as a wing. Like, and he's certainly big enough. Like, but I don't know that he's a point guard. As good as his playmaking.
But it doesn't matter. Who's the Thunder's point guard?
Right. It doesn't. You know, he can handle the ball. That's for sure. He can play make. But I think Harper feels like a true point guard to me. So I don't know that they would have traded for Fox if they knew they were getting Harper.
Yeah.
You know, they couldn't have known.
Yeah.
But then there's the money and committing to Fox that, you know, I guess rightly there's been some questions asked about it. But, you know, I mean, when you look at how good he's been for them, it's hard to argue with the results.
Yeah.
And that's interesting that they haven't played a single minute together. I mean, it's not surprising. I guess I haven't seen them together, but it's always two. It's always two of them. And I think we'll see that 3-guard lineup before long. I mean, Harper obviously has enough size, I think, and Castle can play up for sure. So I think it's viable. It just, you know, you would probably, I don't know what you would go with. Maybe you put like a Champagne or a Barnes at the 4 with Jack, and you maybe have enough shooting there. But
I think it'll work. I think it'll work because at least short midterm, Castle is like a wing who has some point guard DNA in him, can set the table, and Harper is like a point guard with some of just off-ball slasher killer mode. And so I think long-term, whether Fox is a part of that or not, they could really complement each other as like co-facilitators.
Yeah,
I think so.
And real quick, shout out Luke Cornett as well, who's kept their front court afloat with Wemby out, and with Luke Cornett on and Wemby off, or Luke Cornett on, Wemby off, their still plus 6.5. So he's been holding it down when he's out there.
Max, who you buying?
I'm buying, and for those watching the video of this pod, if there's any of you out there, you'll see Drew has his brethren, Jordan Walsh, as his background. I'm buying the Boston Celtics, which really pains me to say as a Knicks fan, but and maybe it's like I'm just afraid of the uniforms. I don't know what it is, but I got to start with Brad Stevens. I think is so damn good at his job. Like Presti gets a lot of love as the best GM in the NBA, and rightfully so. But Brad Stevens is in that upper echelon of front office execs, I think, across the league. And it's also pretty crazy because I don't know how many guys we've seen who have been elite as both coaches and execs. It's not a long list. And he was all-time great college coach. I think he was really good as the Boston coach, got teams to records that were better than the talent that was on the roster. And then as a GM, he's proved time and time again, he's really great at timing when he gets off players, and then the guys he acquires on the margins, like Jordan Walsh, Pio Gonzalez, Neemias Queta, these guys who come in and just contribute to winning. They play hard. They're aggressive as hell. And yeah, this team somehow has got the second best offense in the league, partially because they shoot a ton of threes. And they just, with Joe Mazzulla, they math it up in a way that a lot of other teams don't quite lean all the way into it as much as he does. But he's got them playing a certain way where they're just a really tough out, and all the underlying numbers say like they're as good, if not better, than their record, and their record has them as a top 4 seed in the East. So Boston, I really thought this would be kind of a step back year for them. They'd be like, hovering around 500 and, just be sort of a wait till Tatum gets back and retool after losing some of their older vets. But like this team looks ready to, like, even if Tatum doesn't come back this year, and there's noise about him coming back, but even if he doesn't come back, they still look good enough to win like a 4-5 series in the East with some of the teams, depending on who gets into that other spot. So yeah, as a Knicks fan, I'm frustrated because I thought we were kind of past this version of the Celtics as an elite team, and now it just feels like they're still really good without Tatum, and you throw Tatum back in there, they're going to be even better. So I'm buying them. I think they're as good as they've been playing, and I expect them to keep this up.
Yeah, they're impressive. Like I feel like I was probably higher than them on than most people, higher on them than most people. Did I say that right? Heading into the season. But what they've done has probably exceeded my expectations. Like I saw them as maybe like a 6 in the East. Like that wouldn't have surprised. I was shocked at how low people were on them, where it was like, this is a gap year. They're just going to bottom out. They're going to tank. Yeah. And it's like, but you still have Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, not to mention Joe Mazzulla is your coach. And I think the thing that's really swung it for them has been some of those role players like that you mentioned stepping up, like Queta and Minot and really hooping, man. Anthony Simons has had some nice moments for him. I still kind of like him. I'm kind of a Blazers fan, so that's my guy. Yeah, Jordan Walsh, obviously, like that's been one of my favorite stories of the season. Like it's remarkable. Like I remember watching him at Summer League. Like it feels like 3 years in a row. I think maybe it was 2. And it was just like, is this ever going to catch on? He's just out there kind of missing threes, but like you love the guy, you love the way he plays defense. But it was kind of a question whether he was going to pan out as a viable NBA player. And here we are. He's been great. So I think those guys have kind of swung it for them from like maybe like what would have been a 500 team or slightly above to something more than that. I think they're top 6 in net, higher than that in offense. Like, yeah. Mazzulla's probably the front runner for coach of the year, I would think. At this point, he's up there. There's a few guys that could be in that conversation, but he's definitely up there with what he's done with his team and the way they've overachieved. The Tatum thing, like I think he's coming back this year. I'll actually be surprised at this point if he doesn't. Like wow. I saw that. I'm sure you guys saw it too. That video of him playing once the other day.
Yeah.
Like he's not. he's not ready yet. He's not cleared yet, but like it's coming soon, man. I mean, I think the All-Star break is realistic. So I think as long as they,
What?
I could see him like coming
Wow.
back after the All-Star break.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
tear it again. I think he tore it in May, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that would put it at like 10 months or something, but
Okay, yeah.
maybe
Seen
early
guys do that.
March. But like there would have to be some time to ramp up, before the playoffs. But I know he wants to, and I think as long as they're kind of in this place in the standings, like give or take a couple spots, I'd bet if I had to bet one way or the other, I would bet that we see him this season. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
guys don't really like what guys. Do
Don't
guys
say
really
it. Don't
re-
say
I don't-
it.
You know what? Never mind. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. You know what
Yeah,
else
it
to
is.
say,
It
though?
is more like you get
not gonna say it.
compensating. It's more like you get compensating injuries where like you
Yeah.
have like muscle deficits in other parts of your body and you're like overcompensating and stuff. But yeah, if he's back, that's
If
not a
he's
team.
cleared, like they're not going to clear him if he's not ready. And I
they'll
I
be
have
cautious.
a feeling he's going to be cleared probably by the All-Star break or shortly after. But maybe I'm just being optimistic. But if he's
No, I think
anything
that's-
like what he's been, I mean, then they're a tough team. They could win a series.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd put him any higher than that, but I like the buy though on the Celtics for sure.
Yeah, Max can attest. Like a few weeks before the season, I said a team that I just think is going to surprise us a little bit is the Celtics because of the culture Missoula has established, because of the guys on their roster who have a little bit more to prove. I mean, I actually listened to a few minutes of Bill Simmons just going down the roster and like making up reasons. Of course, like they're all pros. They all have a little more opportunity without Tatum. Like there's a little more of a role to take on. I love Peyton Pritchard coming from an Oregon family. Like Pritch is an all-time legend. 3-time or maybe 4-time high school state champion and just a killer. And we've seen him do it in big moments. And he's been finding his efficiency on offense. Josh Minot was like happening for a few weeks. He's taken a little bit of a step back. Jordan Walsh steps in. This is what the best cultures do, right? Like Christian Brown goes down and it's time for Peyton Watson to take a step in Denver. Max Strus starts the year out and Jalen Tyson, a middle of the first round draft pick gets a chance to show what he can do. Haliburton goes down in game 7 of the finals and suddenly TJ McConnell is like Allen Iverson for a quarter. So a lot of respect for these programs that just like have instilled confidence in guys to be the next man up. And, I spent a lot of time watching Jordan Walsh because I watch a lot of SEC hoops. I'm a big Ole Miss fan. Don't ask me why. And I was fascinated by Jordan Walsh because like you said, he's the classic guy he's a hooper. He knows how to contribute to winning. He doesn't need attention. He doesn't need the ball. He wants to guard their best player. If he could just make a couple damn catch and shoot threes, like he will have a place in the league. He has absurdly long arms. He moves well, prototypical wing size. And here he is. And I think, he's an easy player to love as a teammate, as a fan of that team. And Keita's been really good. I actually think Keita is way better than his stats show. Like I was looking at some on-off numbers, like every lineup for the Celtics is way better with Keita on the floor. Now that might be because the alternatives at the big positions are pretty rough for them this year, but I don't know. Like he's a big man who's very self-aware and wants to do the dirty work, isn't asking to do much more than that. I don't think this team will sustain the pace they're on right now. But I do think in an East that only has one, maybe I'm going to say maybe not even one like really, really good team. The Celtics have a chance. They do. I think that there's an upper limit to what they can achieve in the playoffs unless Tatum is going to come back and be some version of the Tatum we know. And I was going to say love, but I don't love him that much. But I think Tatum's feeling like himself because in the videos of him playing one-on-one hoops, he's taking 20 seconds to get to his spot to get his shot off. So that worries me as a Celtics hater that he's going to be ready to go sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and on Keita, there's 17 points better per 100 with him on the court compared to off, and it really just speaks to like they just need competent big man play. And honestly, I kind of wonder what they'd look like if they'd kept Cornette because they just only really have one competent big on the roster in Keita, and that's a big reason I was down on them. Is I was like, okay, I like their guards in terms of White, Pritchard, Simons, Hauser's kind of like a 2-3. But once you start trying to play bigger teams, like who's playing the 4, who's playing the 5 on this team, and I sort of was just looking down the roster and I didn't see anybody that really excited me. But Keita's been really good, and they have the best like high volume 5-man lineup in the league, which is Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, Jordan Walsh, Jaylen Brown, and Neemias Queta. That's a net plus 22 per 100 possessions, and I forget what the cutoff was. It was like minimum 100 possessions played together, something like that. But of the 5-man groups that have played a lot together, they have the single best one in the league with that 5-man group. And that's definitely not what people would have picked going into the season as the best 5-man unit in the NBA.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're just smart. They're athletic. They're not a great defensive team, but they create so many advantages just from like they shoot so many threes, and they've got enough good shooters that you're going to have to play really clean basketball to sort of make up for that sort of gap on the margins that they're just like creating. And yeah, and we should say Jaylen Brown has looked awesome as the number 1 option. We haven't really talked about him much. He's having the best season of his career. And yeah, as a Knicks fan, it's annoying because I really thought we'd made it through the worst of the Celtics storm, but now I feel like they're just going to retool and be kind of right back to where they were before.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my I guess drawbacks with them, or like questions, is like they're so reliant on the 3 ball.
Yeah.
That like if they just have a cold night, like they're probably not going to win. Like it's but I mean, dude, at least in the regular season, like if more often than not, you can be shooting it great from 3 with as many as they take, like you're going to win the majority of your games. So it's interesting. They've definitely taken it to the extreme. And I mean, Derek White got off to a really slow start this season too. So for them to be as good as they are, have the record that they do, like considering that, where he's like their number 2 guy, I mean, for sure. That's been that, like they kind of overcame that. And now he's looking like the guy I expected him to be this season, like a scaled up version of what he's always been. And, yeah, they're fun to watch. I enjoy it. People complain about all the threes. Like I think threes are kind of exciting. Like I like it. I like watching the Celtics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think Pritch is going to get better too. Like I thought Pritch was going to surprise people and average 20 this year. I still think he has another gear. The difference between this team and last year, and why I actually, in our like over-under league, I marked it as an opt-out of the Celtics, is if there's one significant injury to White or Brown, like they might just, it's not in Missoula's DNA, but they could decide to sort of effectively shut things down. They need all hands on deck. And as I say that out loud, I actually don't even believe it, because I don't think Missoula would ever let them start tanking. But they are stretched thin, and they need every single contribution they get these days. Whereas last year, they could lose one of their key guys and still have a chance in almost any series.
Yeah, they need their guys who can make contested threes. Like that's Brown, like off the dribble, sort of over the top contested threes. That's Brown, that's White, that's Pritchard. If they don't have like 1 or 2 of those guys, it gets a lot harder for them to generate the same number of like quality looks. But yeah. All right, let's do another round of buys. Let's try to go maybe a little bit quicker on this one. Yeah. Drew, give me one of your buys.
Okay, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because they're the 1 seed in the East, but I'm buying this 19-5 Pistons start. I don't like overreacting. I like being the grouch in the group chat who's like, shut up, guys. It's been 25 games. We don't know anything. I am ready to overreact to this Pistons start. I think they might actually be the most dangerous contender in the East right now. Because if the Bucks are truly over, this version of the Giannis era is over, Cade is the most dangerous, like apex predator in the East. That's just where we are now. Oh God, are you going to give me some Brunson BS? Donovan Mitchell? Like,
keep going.
So, +7 in point differential, number 3 defense by points allowed, top 5 in opponent effective field goal, top 3 in forcing turnovers. The Jalen Duren leap has been nuts. One of the things that was crazy to me is like, if they can just get Asar or Ron Holland to make threes like at any point, and they can play those guys together more easily, they might have like an all-time great defense because in 48 minutes of those two guys on the court together, they're allowing something like 88 points, an 88 defensive rating in 2025. And they're just flying around. Those guys are really fun to watch. I think this is really, really special. I think Cade, we're watching a Hall of Famer emerge in Cade Cunningham. We've been on this. Brett's been on this. Cade as an artist, Brett's the best place to see a lot of the things that Cade can do that almost no one else on earth can do right now. And I picked the Cavs out of the East. I'm just sick of the Cavs being a little bit more injured and a little bit more lethargic than their talent should suggest. And it's just, how can you not love this Pistons team and the way they play and the way that they've gotten their best players to commit to the defensive end and the vets who are now contributing to the young core. I'm all in. I think this might be my pick now.
Yeah, the defense is awesome. And they've got Fred Vinson there as their shooting coach, who's like one of at least the only shooting coaches I know in the NBA besides Chip England, and did a lot of good work in New Orleans, fixing a lot of guys' jumpers. So hopefully he can get at least one of Holland or Asar to be a solid shooter. I also don't get why Cade just, he's like, I still think of him as an elite shooter, but for some reason the three ball just doesn't fall for him at the clip that I expect it to. Obviously he's still amazing, but that's the one thing where it's like I expect him to be a 38% 3-point shooter, and he's just not quite there. But he's been incredible. But Brett, I'll let you go on the Pistons.
Yeah, I mean, Ron shoots it with a lot of confidence. I mean, it's not quite.
I love
but I mean,
Ron.
He does everything with confidence.
I love him. Yeah, I love him. I love Asar. I love their team. I think they're probably the team I watch most. Just like being on the East Coast, like their games are always easy for me to watch. So over the last 2 years, like I've watched so much Pistons, and the Duren leap has been remarkable. That's, I think, probably been the main factor that's like separated them their last season and this season, like it made them even better. And I said this on the Cavs Across the Cavs podcast the other night, but like when you when a young-ish team makes that leap, that ascension into like being a legitimately great team, like it happens, like there's always a season where it happens. And like this could be that for the Pistons. I think it's maybe a little too early to say with certainty, but the thing is, like, you don't really know when you're in it, when you're watching it, but then you look back and you're like, that's when they really made the jump. Like they were really good last season. They made obviously a historical leap last season, but they weren't a great team. And like this could be them turning into a great team. We may look back on this season as like this is when it happened. It's hard to know when you're in it, but there's just so much to be excited about with them. And they beat the crap out of you, man, on both ends. They're just as tough as any team in the league. They have an identity. They have great vibes, great chemistry. They're developing some continuity. Duren and Cade are an outstanding pair. And there's Duncan Robinson has started to look a lot better for them lately. I don't think there's anything like fake about what they've done. They're legitimately really good and could very well finish where they are now in the standings.
Yeah, they're just bullies, and it's going to be them and the Knicks at the top of the East. Like I think there's starting to be a little bit of separation there between those two and everybody else. I think I'd still probably lean Knicks as my pick over the Pistons, just because, and trying not to be a homer, but I think the underlying numbers are a little stronger for the Knicks in terms of net rating. I think the Knicks offense has been incredible this year. I think top 2 for the Knicks in offense, top 3 for the Pistons in defense. It'd be an awesome matchup if we got it again. It was a great series last year.
So fun.
Few plays away from going 7, and who knows what would have happened in that case. And the Duren thing's been awesome, because last year I thought at times that they were better with Duren off the court than on the court. Like I kind of like the look of them with Stewart at the 5 a little bit more than with Duren. And this year he's just been like by far probably going to make an all-star team. If the all-star voting was today, I'd vote for him to be an all-star if I had a vote. But they've been awesome. I do not expect them to slow down whatsoever. They'll finish the year as a top 2 seed in the East. I think they've got too much of a lead over everyone else to fall any further than that. So yeah, I buy the buy.
And every time they look like young for a second, I don't have a stat for this, but I just feel like they come out of timeouts, they come out of half times looking like hungry vets with an organized plan on offense. Last week, they came out of half against the Bucks on a 13-3 run. The Blazers, a few days ago, we went on an 11-0 run in the fourth quarter. They call a timeout with like 2.5 left, and out of the timeout, they get a Duncan Robinson 3. We turn it over. Cade hits an easy layup that he just creates out of nothing, just puts someone on his back. Duncan Robinson hits another 3, and like before you knew it, the game was over, and they took the air out of the building, and that's just like veteran stuff. It doesn't feel like a young team that it is like learning, how to handle those big moments. It feels like they are ready for those moments, but. Again, we're not crowning anyone in December. Dunks and Threes says they've had a soft-ish strength of schedule so far, and they've probably won a couple more games than the nerd models would tell you that they deserve so far. But I don't know, man. Like,
would they win 13 straight at one point?
Yeah,
so that's pretty improbable.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think some of the maturity stuff that you're touching on. I think one is JB Bickerstaff. I think they have a great coach. He would have been my pick for Coach of the Year last year. I think Kenny Atkinson got it fine with that. And then also, I think Cade is just a born leader. I think he's like all leader first team in the NBA right now. And I think that's a quality he's always had. And it, just took a couple years, get the right pieces around him, kind of learn the league, learn the game. But like they've got an elite leader. And I just think that's so important. I think they have some other leaders too. I think Duran has kind of emerged as that this year. That's been another kind of part of his development, and Beef Stew. And you're not going to mess around on that team. But Cade I think that's maybe his most valuable quality is his leadership.
Yeah, he's so mature. I remember even when he was drafted, like his interview after being the number 1 pick, like they brought him on the panel, and I was just like, this guy seems like he's 30 years old. This is crazy.
Yeah. So, and on top of the leadership, he's just so fucking good on the court that you have to scheme your whole night around him. Yeah. And
is he the smoothest player in the league? Has he like inherited that crown from Paul
I think
George?
Shea still has it.
That's fair. I think Cade's, all smooth first team for sure. Like he's in the conversation.
He had that like game icing layup against Miami maybe like last week where he like dribbled through the whole team and spun into like a lefty reverse, and it was like one of the smoothest and most like nonchalant kind of game sealers I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's him. I mean, that's his game. Like he's like strikingly smooth in that same way Paul George always was. Like, yeah, he's something to watch.
I mean, he and Shea are at the top tier of like jazz performers right now on a basketball court. But the last thing I'll say about Detroit, the shooting, it's not been some fluky shooting heater they're on either. Like their offensive effective field goal is middle-ish. They're number 2 in offensive rebounding rate. I don't think that's luck. I think that's a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
Duran is one of the best rebounders on earth. Guys like Asar and Cade are elite positional rebounders. I think this team, whether or not this pace is sustainable, is going to be one of the heavy hitters in the East.
Yeah,
I like him to finish with the best record. I'm with you on New York, like coming out of the East in the playoffs. Like they would, to be clear, they would still be my pick for that. But I think Detroit can hang on to this 1 seed. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. All right, Brett, who's another team you're buying?
Let's stay in the East since I went with San Antonio with my other one. This is hard for me, by the way, guys. Like, as somebody who like loves every team, like I kind of want to buy. There's so many teams I want to buy stock in, but to narrow it down to a few is tough. But I'm gonna go with Orlando. I'm buying Orlando, and I know obviously there's the Franz injury, which thank God isn't as bad as it looked. He's gonna be out a few weeks, but they're rolling. I mean, they've got a big test ahead of them against New York, obviously, I think on Saturday, right, in the Cup game.
Yeah.
They're rolling, man. And like just Desmond Bane figuring it out, like turning back into Desmond Bane, like has been huge for them.
He's been so good.
Paolo's obviously just kind of getting back, but it's like I've always felt one of the reasons I was so high on Bane to Orlando was just like how good he was going to be for Paolo. And when they've only played a handful of games together, and in the beginning of the season, Bane wasn't shooting the ball well. He wasn't himself. He was acclimating. So like, and now Paolo's kind of at that point where he's just kind of coming back. He's feeling it out, probably not trying to be too disruptive with like what they established. They were very successful when he was gone. But once he gets back up to speed and Bane is playing at this level, I think the two of them are going to be really tough. Like even in the time when Franz is out, and then Franz comes back, and you just have a world of problems against this team. Like their offense has been better this year. Still not great, still looks clunky at times for sure. I definitely have some faith in them figuring that out. I think they found something with the three guard lineup with Suggs, Bane, and Black out there together. Like those three have been really good together in the minutes that they've shared the court. And like they started the three of them, I'm pretty sure the other night in the first game without Franz, next to Paolo and Wendell Carter Jr. Like that's a pretty interesting lineup. So I think in the time before Franz comes back, they're going to be able to still be pretty damn good, stay afloat. And then you get that guy back, and it's just a matter of, figuring out the offense. The defense is going to be elite. Not worried about that at all. And I think that's like a really nice foundation to have. And one of the reasons I'm just so high on this team going forward, because I know they're going to be elite on that end. As long as they have Suggs, like sometimes I feel like he's as important as anybody to their team. Like when they don't have him, they're a totally different team. Yeah. Just as much as when they don't have Paolo or they don't have Franz. Like he's vital to them. And he's been playing great when he's been on the court this season. So I think as long as you have him, man, like, yeah, your D's going to be elite, and the offense is going to be better with Desmond Bane.
Yeah.
Like he's been cooking lately for the most part.
Suggs, it feels a little bit like peak Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
On the Celtics, where the best players are young, the best players are dogs, and they're doing just fine. But like the emotional core, the quarterback of that team, a lot of the time feels like it's Suggs. And Max has been all over. Like the on-off numbers with Suggs are just incredible. And you mentioned Anthony Black earlier in the pod. I love him. Again, Hooper. The efficiency numbers from three are going to be a work in progress, and everything else he does is a positive. But Brett, I have a question for you. How do you feel about Paolo Banchero as the offensive centerpiece long term? Is it just a wait and see? The efficiency numbers have been iffy the last couple of years. He plays slowly. What do you think?
I think he can be the centerpiece, just maybe not to the extent that some other guys are. I don't think you want to run everything through him. And I think that's going to be an important thing for him to learn, is just sort of how to, because, I think Franz is just as good as Paolo. I hate to like compare them, and I never want to like pit them against each other, but because that happens so much online. But like, I just, as long as those two are there, it's going to be pretty even in terms of who's the centerpiece of the offense. And like, and I think there's going to be nights where it's Bane. And I think as long as they can figure that out in terms of when we want to go through Paolo, when we want to go through Franz, when we want to go through Bane, what are they doing when they're off ball? That's going to be super important for this team. And I guess I'm just optimistic that they will figure that out. It's hard to say with Paolo. We haven't seen him in a different situation. Certainly, I guess when Franz has missed games, we've seen it. He's been very young at these times. Like, I do have some concerns with him. Like, I do feel he still settles a lot, which, maybe that is just who he is. But he's also had some monster games. He's obviously had some big playoff performances. I think he's certainly an all-star caliber player for many years. I just don't know that he's going to be like the offensive centerpiece in the way that like a Shea, or these guys are guards, but like a Luka or somebody like that, or even if you want to go with like bigger, like a Giannis, like I don't know if he can be quite as viable in that role as a guy like that to that extent. Maybe he would need some help, and he just I don't know, maybe he doesn't utilize it enough, or hasn't so far. But those guys have been playing together for a few years now, and I think they'll figure it out. But if they can just be, even like a top 12, 13 offense with their defense, I think that's a hell of a team. And like if I was looking at the East, I might say there's four teams that I feel could come out of the East in the playoffs, and I would put Orlando in that group, and I guess that's sort of like the nature of my buy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the slow start didn't really shake me. Like, it always felt like the vibes stayed good. You know what I mean? Like, it never, you never heard anything really coming out of the locker room. Like, the body language was okay. Like, the guys stayed positive. I don't think they let that affect them, and it hasn't really affected my perception of this team. So hopefully Franz can get back quick, and they can really get rolling.
You came on this pod a year and change ago, and I think we were talking about young guys, just some of the most amazing young players around the league. And you and I both surprised Max in agreement that we might take Scotty Barnes over Paolo long term if we're just signing up to have like a guy in your young core. Again, not to pit guys against each other, but this is what we do for fun. That got a little scary for a second. Now I think it's a fair conversation again. Yeah. It probably always was. The most intrigued I've ever been with Paolo, outside of the fact that, for his size, the way he handles the ball, the way he moves is amazing, is when he went to the Philippines with the U.S., 2023 World Cup team and was playing like some small ball five,
Center,
doing a lot.
yeah.
He was fitting in for Steve Kerr. And that gives me hope that there's more flexibility to his game than he often shows in Orlando because, like you were saying, when it's heliocentric Paolo ball, I think that's when Orlando's offense becomes the problem that it's been the last couple of years. And there's no need for it to be that way. He should be an elite cutter. He should be able to play off of Franz's drives. It shouldn't have to be, Paolo in isolation when push comes to shove, especially with the Bane pressure release valve now. So, yeah. Max, what do you think?
Yeah, and I also think, Orlando, it's a challenging spacing environment to play in because there's just not that many good to elite shooters on the team. Obviously, you have Bane, but a lot of the other guys are not guys that teams are going to respect from outside. I think that makes sort of Franz's ability to get to the basket at will even more impressive because he's driving through so much congestion on the court. And Paolo, I think, doesn't have like quite the same ability to kind of weave his way through a really tight, crowded paint in the way that Franz does. And Franz is like an elite at that. It's an elite skill. So, in an ideal world, I would love to see Paolo in an environment where he has more space and more open driving lanes where he can really bully his way to the basket and lean into. Whenever we talk about Paolo, I always say this phrase, which is like leaning into his inner LeBron or Giannis more than his inner Carmelo Anthony, because I feel like the way he plays now is very reminiscent of kind of prime Melo, where it's without the same ability to convert on those. So yeah, I'm curious to see this next stretch with like Franz out if they stay afloat in the same way, with Paolo kind of having the keys to everything. But I think in an ideal world, I would love to see him in like a more open scheme. And if, I'm trying to think of teams off the top of my head, but like, what would he look like on the Pacers or something where there's all these guys flying around, there's driving lanes, and they really have a need at that position, and he can get his way into the paint and punish teams? Is he able to play at that kind of, 0.5 basketball, making quick decisions, or does he have to survey the court? Because as you said, Drew, we've seen him in circumstances where he's fitting in. And I think he is a high IQ player. Like when he was at Duke, he was a really good playmaker for his size. He was a good passer. It was one of the things I liked the most about him coming out of the draft. And I haven't seen quite as much of that in the professional level as I saw in college. But yeah, I still have some hope for him for sure. But I do think there's circumstances about the way that the Orlando roster is constructed that is kind of making him lean into the stuff that kind of frustrates me with him.
I'd like to see him catch it on the move more. Like you see it in Minnesota with Naz Reid. He's always been really good at that, like a stampede catch or even just coming off a pin down, like getting some momentum and catching it while you're already moving. And then he doesn't have to like dance and try to, because he gets stuck in a way that Franz doesn't when he's going in. Like sometimes he just gets stuck, and maybe he shouldn't. Maybe he, theoretically could still get to the rack, but he just kind of gets stuck, and he'll either make a pass, often a great read, or he'll just shoot like a little fadeaway or something. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I think getting him some momentum going to the hole should be a priority for them
Yeah.
when they're at full strength, where he's off ball and then catches it on the move, and
Yeah.
then it's just a downhill freight train.
Yeah,
And I
he's
think
so
he's
big.
more effective. He's great at going to the hole, but it's like I think in that context he'd be even more effective than just like dancing and trying to beat guys off the dribble. But you know. I'm pretty high on Paolo still. I do. I think a lot of the criticism is fair though, for sure.
I would love to see him not be allowed to shoot a single three for like a month and just see what it looks like, because he's on that very short list of 6'10" freight trains who can dribble and finish with authority like that. And obviously he's always been a great passer. Forget for his size, he just has great vision. But the stop and surveying, I think, is what irks me with him. And just makes me wish, he would keep the rock moving sometimes, especially again now that they have more options offensively.
Yeah. All right. My next buy is, this one might be a hot take. I don't know. I'm gonna buy the Warriors. Um, I think that they had a brutal schedule to start the year, and then Steph got hurt, and it's kind of led to them being somewhat overlooked. They're still, through all that, they're a top 8 team in the West, and there's quite a bit of separation between them and the teams below them. And Steph is supposed to be back, I think, tomorrow. He practiced and scrimmaged today. I think he's going to be back tomorrow. They've had a top 3 defense, which has gone undercovered, but they're number 3 in the NBA in defensive rating. There's been a lot of talk, I feel like, on the pods I've been listening to recently about Draymond falling off. I don't know. When I watch him, I still think he's pretty damn good, and their defense is a hell of a lot better with him on the court compared to off. That's for sure. And yeah, I still think I'm buying them in the sense that I think they can get their way into the top 6, even avoid the play and make someone sweat in a first round series. I'm not picking them to win over Houston or Denver, certainly not over OKC, but I think they can get their way into that top 6 and make a team sweat. And I just think, like, yeah, Draymond's still good. Steph is still amazing. Like, when he's on the court, can push for top 5 player in the league, can be the best player on the court any given night, no matter who he's playing against. And Jimmy's had a quiet season, but he's still, if you look at his numbers, they're pretty similar to his numbers through his career in Miami. Like, the stats aren't that different. He's kind of been playing at the same level. And I just think, yeah, they had a really tough start to the season schedule wise, and I can see it's lightening up a little bit. I could see them going like 10-4 in their next 14 games if you look at the schedule. And if they do that, then I think they'll be like comfortably in the top 6 and, working their way into like the middle of the pack of the West. So yeah, I think a lot of people have kind of written them off just because they haven't started the season that well and they're old, but I think they're going to still be heard from down the stretch of this season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the age is a bit of a concern. Like they've got to stay healthy. Steph's got to stay healthy. Butler's got to stay healthy. I don't think they have the talent of depth to sustain an injury to one of the main guys. Shout out to Quentin Post. Like he's been really hooping, playing some great defense. The Kuminga thing has just been a bummer for me as somebody
Yeah.
who was pretty high on him. Maybe I'm definitely excited to see him in a new setting just to see, like, but you would have thought he would have bought in more by now, or just, I don't know. It's such a weird situation because he just seems like the type of player that they need. Like of an optimized version of Kuminga would be absolutely perfect for this team, I think, with his ability to pressure the rim and his athleticism and energy and what you'd think would be great rebounding. Like, he hasn't been the player I thought he would be. I'm not going to, like, speaking of him individually, I'm not going to count him out until I see him in another situation. I'm assuming he's going to be traded. I think that's a pretty safe assumption at this point, but
Yeah.
that's definitely been a bummer for me. But yeah, man, if they're healthy, they're one of those teams that you can't really count out completely. Steph is still unreal. But they wouldn't be a buy for me. I might even swing the other way a little bit on them, but I definitely do hear where you're coming from. Like, I feel like I would be like, I'm selling the Warriors, and then they just here they are, like looking like they did,
Yeah.
post Butler trade last season, where they were just cruising and it beat a really tough Houston team in round one, and we're not that far removed from that. So you can't count them out. You gotta give them their respect. As long as Steph and Draymond are together, and with Jimmy, of course, like I think you gotta give them the respect. You can't write them off.
Yeah,
I would have picked this team before the Clippers to be 6-18 through 24. If you told me one of the old Hall of Fame bearing West Coast teams is really struggling early. But yeah, Max, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, they're 13-12 right now, and yeah, I'm not gonna do the thing where I like read through their next 15 games, but if you look at it, I could easily see them being like 24-16 in 14 games, and it's a whole nother conversation once you get to that point. So yeah, I just think they're being a little overlooked, and the defense has still been awesome. The offense, but it's crazy that with having Steph for so long, it seems like their offense is always kind of in like the average to below average range. I think it's partially because they know Steph can just carry you to a certain level of offense that you want to surround him with the best defense you can possibly construct. But yeah, I've got some hope for them. I could see them, get into that top six. And them against Houston, I think would be a great first round series. Them against the Spurs, them against the Lakers. I think all of those would be long series. So I'd be excited to see that.
I'm still the biggest Pods fan you're going to find. And
Warriors fans hate Pods, and it drives me crazy.
well,
It's crazy.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
They're like 6 points worse in net rating with Pods on the floor this year, which I don't want to read into too much because he runs the show a lot for their second unit. And so obviously like the starters are going to be generally, going to give you a better like net rating on a team that has Steph and Draymond and Jimmy still playing at a really high level. But I think they just need to take some swings with this roster to up the ceiling. Like I think Pods they just need to lean into the youth and let young guys fail. Clearly, the process with Kuminga has devolved into a sad situation, but Pods is wonky. He's special in his own ways. He's better. He's holding up better defensively than I thought he would when I watched him at Santa Clara. And I just really believe in him. I'm surprised their offense has been as bad with him on the floor as it has been because he's shooting 40% from three. Like he's found his sea legs as a shooter in the NBA. It's a shame that they ended up getting almost nothing out of Wiseman and Kuminga because they did have this very rare opportunity. Again, obviously light years ahead, multiple windows, all the BS. It was real. Like they had a rare chance to extend the window, and it just looks like it's not going to happen. Max, I agree with you. They could be feisty if you could just like drop them into the tournament as the 6th seed. They might be able to make a team like Houston really sweat like they did last year. The problem is that it's hard for me to imagine them getting to 6th seed in the West. The West isn't quite as good as we all thought it was going to be. Maybe it'll start looking a little tougher, but guys, these old bodies are not really holding up. And, Steph will get dinked up again. Horford's going to continue to miss games. Draymond will get hurt at some point.
He's been rough when he's been out there. Horford.
Yeah, I expected a little bit more from him for sure.
Yeah.
What do you guys think they could even get for Kuminga? Because upgrading their roster would make a lot of sense. I think there's some holes. Like I think they could use another big. They're kind of a small team, and when you're going up against some of these teams in the West, you mentioned Houston. Like I think they're going to need a little bit more size, and I'm just wondering, like at this point, what even is Kuminga's value? Like maybe there's been times in the past where they could have sold a lot higher on him, but right now, I wonder to what extent they can upgrade their roster with only losing him, or if they would have to look at maybe shipping some other guys out too and try to retweak this. Because there's obviously a good month and a half or anyway until the trade deadline, so they've got some time to see what do we need to do to address this. But I think
who was reporting the Warriors for Giannis? That was an actual thing that I saw, but it's like there's zero path to that happening.
Yeah, I don't know how they would make it happen. Obviously, it would be amazing, and like maybe he would even want to play there. But
could they package like Kuminga and like some picks and get Wiggins back? Like, is that
Like,
it would take more than just
Kuminga,
Kuminga, I think.
Pods, and all the contracts they can put
Wiggins,
together. But where are the
Wiggins has
picks
been so
coming
good for
from?
Miami. I don't know, like
Yeah.
but like a wing would be nice. A big would be. I mean, you could almost look at anything, and I just feel like their roster is just a little bit lacking. Like if we're
Kristaps?
talking about a playoff run, I always thought he would be a really fun fit in that system. Like, I mean, I love post for them just as a shooting big. Like, if you look at their teams over the years throughout this great run, like they really haven't had a shooting big until him. And yeah, when that was being discussed a lot, that was always a really intriguing fit
Yeah.
for me. So, and who knows, maybe he could be available. That's not a bad shout. Like, I don't know if you could do that as part of a Kuminga deal. But they're going to be trading him, and he's got some value still. He's still very young. He's had stretches of play where he's been outstanding, where he's looked really good. Like there's a reason I was as high on him as I was, like
Yeah.
at least, up until last season. He's shown it, but
Yeah.
maybe it's just he just wants to play he wants to be a different type of player than what they need him to be right now. And
Yep.
maybe in a different situation he could find some success, but it'll be interesting to see what they can get for him because I think that
yeah.
trade is a foregone conclusion.
Every young team, like at the bottom of the standings, should be open-minded to like reviving Kuminga's talent. And the last thing I'll say on Golden State is, Brett and I have been pretty negative here, but every time I doubt Golden State, they outperform my expectations.
Same.
Like I had the Rockets beating them in that series last year.
Yeah.
They just took them to school in the way that vets do, championship vets. And who the hell knows what would have happened in the Minnesota series if Steph didn't get hurt. These guys, they're like Butler. Like if you get them in the tournament, they're just going to find a way to make it a little bit harder than you thought.
Yeah.
So I respect the pick, Max, even if their roster now looks like it has more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Same.
All right. And I think we're going to skip the sells, but do we still want to do the take we're scared of? Drew, do you want to share yours?
I don't even have one I feel that good about. Like I want it to be edgy and say the Clippers will finish above the Lakers, but I don't even think Luka's going to let that happen. Brett, did you have anything spicy?
I'm pretty high on Derik Queen.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, is it like the trade might have been worth it take?
Yeah. I think the trade will go down as worth it. I
love
think
that.
Yeah. And I mean, I've posted a lot about Queen. I talk about him a lot, probably more than almost any player this season so far. So it's no secret that I'm high on him, but like I think he's going to be a superstar. I think he's really, really special. And look, we don't know where that pick is going to end up. If it ends up being the number one, okay, maybe not. But like, say it's 3 or 4. Like, I don't know. I think there's a good chance Queen will be better than that guy who would be drafted there. And I mean, guys like Derik Queen just don't come around every day. And I think in this modern NBA, he's the kind of guy that you want. Obviously, like there's been a lot of Jokic comps made about him. I certainly do see a lot of that. Şengün is another one. I see a lot of that too, with just kind of his dribble game out of face-ups and just bringing the ball up and everything. Like he's got a little bit of both. I see some Chris Webber in him. That's always been one of my favorite comps for Derik Queen. Like not as athletic as young Chris Webber, like maybe like young Chris Webber's play style, but with old Chris Webber's athleticism. Like I see some of that. Like he's this, I mean, but he's, 6'10", 260, whatever. His ball handling is a real problem to deal with for opposing bigs. I think he's a genius level passer, and his shot is gonna come along. He shoots about 80% at the line. Like I don't think it'll be too long before he's taking and making threes. I think the mid range will be there. We just haven't seen much of it this year, but and then just his ability to sort of bully guys, like bullying these NBA vets, like under the hoop, like kind of getting what he wants. I mean, this guy's had 6 games of at least 20 points and 7 rebounds already. And he had double-digit assists in a couple of those. He had the monster game against the Spurs. He had a monster game against Jokic in Denver. And like that's not fluky for a 20-year-old kid that had no training camp, was coming off an injury, is obviously not in the greatest NBA shape quite yet. And for him to still be able to go out and do that many times in such a short span of games, I mean, that has to open your eyes. And and yeah, I mean, he's got such a great vibe to him. Like he's funny as hell.
Yeah.
He doesn't take himself too seriously, but he's also like super competitive. Like he's talking about our draft class is going to be the best ever, or this or that. I'm going to be the best player in the draft class. Like he's not afraid to say stuff like that. I mean, he's extremely confident. He's probably irrationally confident. And I think that can only be a good thing. But just his skill set at that size, man, you don't see it every day. And every time I watch him, it's just shades of these great players. And I think he's going to be one of them. So like, that's kind of my like hot take is that I think he's really, really special, and I'm buying all the Derik Queen stock. And where he ends, it's hard to compare him to like Flag and Harper. I mean, I think this draft class is just outstanding. Knipple, but like, yeah, Edgecombe even I think has a ton of untapped upside. Like
crazy class.
It's a crazy class, but I think I'd probably pick him to finish. If you go down as like a top 3 player in this class, maybe even with the potential to be more than that. I think he's that good. So I kind of see where New Orleans was coming from. If they're sort of seeing him that same way, it's like we have a chance to get this guy. Like, I don't know, man. Watching some of these performances he's had, it's just, I don't know. I'm already separating him from the pick. Like, I don't like that he's tied to that, but I think he's going to be good enough where a few years from now, we're like, yeah, they got it. They got a really nice player with that pick. Maybe they got an all-star with that pick, but I think Queen's going to at least be at that level, if not higher. So, yeah.
I said to Max on our last episode, there are a lot of guys with much higher floors than Derik Queen. There are not many guys on earth that you can just imagine being the best player in the NBA. Like, and it's not completely ridiculous because he has the mark of a true savant, which is as a rookie, he makes certain things that are very difficult look so easy against the best in the world.
Yeah.
I might not even want him to lose that much weight. Like maybe he's just a Jokic type body. Like you mentioned Zoo, who maybe is Zubats is a little bit worse than last year so far. He's still great. Like
slimmed down.
CC Sabathia slimmed down and like was not as good for the Yankees back in the day.
Even like LeBron's come in slim one year and he wasn't the same.
Yeah.
Zion slimmed down and like he hasn't been quite the same player this year. Like I'm with you. Like when I say conditioning, I don't even mean like weight. It's just kind of the way Jokic did it. Like Jokic has not lost any weight. He's heavier now than he was as a rookie, but his conditioning is vastly better. And that's kind of what I want to see with Queen. Like I think that's part of what makes him special. When you see him bullying these guys around the rim or like coming downhill at you, just like throwing crossovers and stuff, like he is hard to deal with. So I think it's a good body type for his game. I think that's the way he's learned to play and he's learned to use it. Like you don't want to take that away, but just and I mean, for a guy that didn't have training camp and is as heavy as he is, like he holds his own, man. He's been playing a lot of minutes, so it's not a huge concern. But you can just imagine a couple years from now with NBA strength and conditioning programs and just locking in and getting stronger, but staying in that weight range. Like he's going to be a problem. His handle is crazy, man.
And it doesn't feel like empty calories. Like obviously the Pelicans have been terrible, but the few highlights they've had this year are like him carrying them in the second half of a game. I think endomorph is the term for like that body type. Max, you're more of the resident doctor on the pod, but one of the last thing I'll say about Queen is, Sam Vecini, one of the best people to listen to on all things NBA draft, loves talking about how Queen at every level has just punked dudes. Like at Montverde, he played alongside Cooper Flag. He was statistically the best player on that Montverde team. Like he goes to Maryland, he just has like off the charts analytics, raw counting stats. He just shows up and wins and dominates dudes, makes it look easy, makes it look fun. He has all of these superstar qualities. And now we've seen him do it against NBA players. We don't know what his ceiling is yet.
It's high. Yeah, I'm with you,
It's
man.
very
Like
high.
I think it's always been that way where like there was definitely a floor. I think we're past that now. Like I think now we can say his floor is higher because he's already established himself as like a
Yeah.
pretty impactful player. Like I bet he's got one of the best plus minuses on that team, like for sure. On offs. I know he had the best for a while. I haven't checked it in a bit,
Check my favorite site.
but
The
he's
only, I
been
think the only way it goes downhill is if he's just so talented offensively and gets out of shape and stops trying defensively and suddenly he's overpaid. But I
the
agree. I
defense,
agree with you.
the defense is interesting. Like that was certainly the thing I was most worried about with him coming in, and like it's been better than I expected it to be. That's for sure. He looks bigger on the court, like taller and longer than I thought he would. I thought he was going to be
Yeah.
one of those guys that looked a lot smaller in the NBA than they did in college, where it's like, oh, is he like 6'8"? Actually, like to me, he looks like a legit 6'10", if not a little taller. He's long. He's got great hands. You know, like he's made some really nice plays at the rim. He gets his hands on balls. He's averaging a steal per game, almost a block per game, almost 2 stocks in 25 minutes a game. And he's a very high IQ basketball player. And I think to some extent that's going to translate on defense. Like it's kind of like the same path that Jokic has taken to being like whatever he is on defense. I know there's some stats that say he's like a great defender and
Yeah.
some people think he's terrible.
Best ever.
I think he's a passable, like average, whatever defender. And I think Queen could be that too, kind of on the same, just his, again, the size, the hands, the quick hands, the IQ. Like he's got all that, so I don't think he's gonna. I don't know if I don't think it'll ever be considered a strength of his, but I don't think he's gonna be a disaster on defense. But I really don't. So that's been another reassuring thing where, you know, but when you're that good on offense, it can sort of make you better on defense too. When you're, you know, if you're like the hub of a great offense like Jokic has been, you're forcing the team to take the ball out of the net. You can set your defense. You're going to be better on that end. Like it all kind of connects. So. Yeah, no, I couldn't be higher on him though. He's the Big Easy, man.
Hell yeah.
He's super tough.
Yeah, he's been so much better than I expected him to be, and I agree with the he looks bigger point as well, like from a height perspective.
Looks
'Cause
like a center. He really looks like a center out there.
I was
surprising.
I was worried he was just going to be like a power forward and at that and not like a shooting threat. So it's a rare type of player who's going to be a 4 and be like the offensive engine of your team, but you also need to play like a big next to them. But if he can be the only big man on the floor and your defense can tread water at least, like that's going to be huge. So yeah, I'm not going to go as far as to say like maybe the trade will be like a win for the Pelicans because I still think. I mean,
What if it ends up the 4th pick?
Yeah, I can see it.
I mean, I could see that.
And what if he's one of the best players in the league? Like,
yeah.
I'll be honest. I think the Pels are a little bit better than their record would suggest. Like they've lost some very close games. Like they've been in some games and then just kind of let it slip in the 4th, or they've lost a couple overtime games. I think like even without Zion, I think they're a little bit better than their record would suggest.
Yeah.
And like I think they could turn it around to the point that maybe this doesn't end up a top 3 pick. Like I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs or anything, but
They'll be trying like hell.
I mean, they have no reason not to. So, I think they could be. I'm not positive that pick's going to be quite as bad as people are thinking. You know what he's like is almost like Şengün, like before he started shooting threes, like that type of center.
Yeah.
Like so, yeah. But the size has been encouraging, man. Like
to be clear though, the passing highlights are also crazy, like they were with young Şengün.
Yeah.
I hate the process because if they thought Queen was this special, they should have taken him with the pick there where they took Fears.
Yeah.
And I'm not the biggest Fears guy. Very skilled, just not a player type I would invest in the top 7. So they should have just taken Queen there and kept their pick.
I hear that.
But
I mean, I like Fears a
it'll
lot,
be okay
but
if he's this special.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. But I mean, no doubt about it. It was one of the wildest
And by the
things
way,
ever. But
Jordan Walsh, watch. He went into half against Milwaukee today, 7 for 7 from the field.
No way.
Made all
Man.
3 of his threes. He's shooting like 57% on the season now.
Is he listening to the pod while he's
crazy.
playing?
I don't know, but Jordan Walsh, we are fans. Maybe one day we'll have him on.
All right, I'll do my take really quick,
And then get us outta here.
And then get us out of here because Brett, you've been very generous with your time. So the take is that Tyrese Haliburton, when healthy, is the best American player in the world. And I think it's just because the
I
Pacers,
didn't see that coming.
the Pacers have just been, they've fallen off a cliff so much this year. And even comparing them like to a team like Boston, who you take Tatum off the team and you take a lot, it's not just Tatum, but you take Drew Holiday, Al Horford, Kristaps, and they're still a really good team. This Pacers team, it's kind of reminiscent of like peak Steve Nash, where the Suns, before they signed Steve Nash with pretty much the similar team, were a lottery team. Then you bring Steve Nash in, they're like high 50s and wins. And then as soon as he leaves, they're kind of back to being a lottery team again. It feels kind of like that, where they're a lottery team without him. They're like going to challenge for a top 3 pick, 4 or 5 pick without him. And then with him, they were in the NBA Finals. So, you know, if we're just having a one-on-one tournament of all the Americans in the world, he's definitely not going to win it. But when it comes to impact on winning and his ability to just be kind of an unsolvable problem offensively, like the other contenders in the mix are Brunson, Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Curry at his best, Donovan Mitchell, Cade Cunningham. That's probably like the rest of the list of the best Americans in the world. But
KD maybe in there.
KD, yeah, KD for sure. But just seeing how bad the Pacers have looked this year, I know they've had some other injuries too. It's making me think Haliburton is like even more impactful than I already thought he was. So I'm not sure if I fully believe this take 100%, but it's been kicking around in my head, especially thinking with how good the Celtics have been and thinking in my mind about like what taking Tatum off that team has meant versus what taking Haliburton off of the Pacers has meant. I've been kicking it around.
You
I
buried
like
the
the
lead
take.
there. You
I like
buried
it.
the lead there a little bit, which is they've had more than some injuries like Nemhard, Matherin, McConnell. Oh my God, the guy who hit 45 threes against the Knicks in the second
Nesmith.
half last year, Nesmith. Like they've lost way more than Haliburton, but after what Haliburton did last year and the clutch shot making, the clutch playmaking, I'm not arguing with it. He's a tier 1 superstar.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about sort of how we what factors into us ranking, you know, the best players because there's a lot of things like he's not anywhere near the type of scorer that like Anthony Edwards is or something. But if we're just talking value and like impact and value to his team, I mean, it's hard to deny it. Like, especially, yeah, I mean, we all saw the playoff run. But yeah, I do wonder if none of these guys had gotten hurt other than Haliburton, the guys this season, like, could they be kind of like the Celtics, like just this overachieving team, like doing it off the culture? But I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you though. Like I do think a lot of it was just him, and like he's one of those guys. Like I don't know. It's you play like his style, but it's not in like a dominant way where it kind of was like with Luka with the Mavs or something like that. It's more of like it's more like streamlined, like more seamless, where he just kind of like quietly makes everybody better. I think with his absence, you really do kind of get an idea of his impact.
Yeah, and it's kind of a hand wavy way to say it, but it's like in terms of playing his style, it's like he brings other guys with him into his style as opposed to like forcing other guys to
that's a good way to put it.
Play his style. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
he doesn't
exactly.
he literally doesn't need to shoot. You know, we say that about a lot of guys. At Iowa State, he had a historically low usage rate. Like Taylor Horton Tucker was the one chucking at Ohio State for the Cyclones when they played together. Halliburton sometimes pisses people off because he'll go into the second half of a game having taken one or two shots, and it's just who he is. He could play on 30 teams, and it's especially impressive when you reach superstar status and you can say that you could just fit into any team without really changing the way they play. You'll keep the blender moving and add on.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we can wrap there. Brett, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, if you probably already know Brett's Twitter account. He was already a big account when we had him on last year, but he's exploded so much even since then. So love seeing everything you put out and all the highlight tapes, and it's awesome having you on. Anything else you want to let people know about where they can find you other than that?
Nah, I mean, it's pretty much just Twitter, Usher NBA. Hit me up on there, but that's pretty much where I'm at these days in terms of social media stuff. But really appreciate you guys having me on. I genuinely always love talking hoops with you guys, and down to do it anytime for sure.
Shout out CD Sissoko. He's 8 for 11 for the Blazers right now. It's happening.
Starting at point guard.
We'll be back soon. Peace.
Boris Dirk.